Okay, so are people comfortable going on now? Okay, so what we're going to do now that we have this, is we're going to open up person. We're going to add more texture to this. Right now, people are heterogeneous only with respect to their location. We want to make them heterogeneous with respect to other attributes that we may want to specify in a more clear way. So double click on person, okay? And then we're going to add a parameter in. Ladies and gentlemen, earlier I gave a blurb on parameters. I'm going to add 2 parameters in here. Tell me, what are the functions of parameters in AnyLogic? What are the 2 major functions of parameters in AnyLogic? I sort of droned on about it before. What are they? So, communication of assumptions is a key one, and encoding those assumptions as well. So an agent sort of has some assumptions as described by the parameters, some assumptions about the value, say how long it stays sick, or how many people it contacts per unit time, and then the parameters also communicate those assumptions from the surrounding thing in which that agent lives, like the surrounding population. So we're going to add 2 parameters in. So double click on person, and then drag 2 parameters from the general tab of the palette. So 1, 2. There we go. Okay? Drag them from this general tab of this palette here. Drag them over, and those parameters start with a singularly uninspiring names. So what I'd like you to do is to click on the first one, and I'd like to call it income. Okay? The very first parameter, the first one you dragged in, say, it doesn't actually matter whether it's the first or the second, but just say for the first one, we're going to call it income. And then we come to face with the hideous reality of the fact that we're operating in Java. We've got to specify a type. In other words, what sort of information is contained in an income? What sort of thing is an income? How do we want to view the income? How do we want to abstract the income? What do we want to view it as? Is income a color? No. Is it a Boolean, a true or false thing? No. Here we want to treat it as a double precision value. We want to treat it as some quantity. I have an income of $37,323.25 per year, not day. Okay, so here we clicked on income, or we clicked on that. We give its name to be income, and we just left it as a double. This other one, by contrast, we're going to click on, and we're going to call it sex. And this one we could actually, we could quibble about what would be the best way to do it. I'm going to do it in a way that I would not do for a real model, but for didactic purposes, it's the best. If this were a real model, I might call it is male, or better yet, I'd give it an enum, so you can call it male or female very clearly. But here I'm going to give it an int, and nods to my biostatistical colleagues, who'll give it a 0 or 1 value. Okay, so here we're going to call sex an int, and that will have some sort of simplifying benefits for the next few things. So here, the second parameter we called int. Okay, who needs help now? Who needs a TA? Who would like a TA next to them? No? Okay. Okay, so here we have 2 parameters, sex and income. Income is a double, sex is an int, okay? Okay, so these are characteristics of a person, okay? I'd like you to open up main now. Well, okay, riddle me this. So I told you before about 2 functions parameters. One is to encode some assumptions. The second is to communicate those assumptions. Suppose, ladies and gentlemen, I want to set, for all the people in my model, I want to set their income and sex. Where would I do that in this model? Remember I said communicate the assumption from where? Okay, it's their population. That's what encloses them. It's their population. That's right. So It's whatever encloses them or creates them. In this case, it's their population that's sort of responsible for maintaining them. So if we go to, and where does the population live, ladies and gentlemen? Where in the model? It lives in Maine. It's a population of people, but it lives in Maine because Maine is the stage on which the people strut. It's sort of the overall edifice of the model that manages the different populations and so on. So it's in Maine is where our population is, ladies and gentlemen. So if we go, we double click on Maine, we're back in the main campus, and we click on population. Lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, we see that even in the general tab, there's a place for income and sex. And if we go to the parameters, there's very sort of specifically designated places there. Here, what we're going to put in there, what this box is, what this box allows us to do is to give a formula that will tell for each successive agent sort of how to determine the income of that agent or the sex of that agent. In other words, we can put in formula here which will tell our agents sort of what income they should have and what sex, and that formula will be run again and again and again for each successive agent. Okay. So what I'd like to do here is to question. Yes.
So, we're thinking about one environment, but in a situation where you're thinking of two environments.
Sure.
One environment and one.
Sure. Yep.
Would you have two environments or would you have two names?
Okay, it's a good question. Let's suppose people go between work and home. If a given agent is kind of going back and forth between two different environments in the course of the day, I would mark it as an aspect of their state, whether they're at home right now or work right now, and we do that with a state chart very nicely, and that might be a little example you could do actually very, very, very nicely. But if you had two different sort of entirely different populations, say one city versus another city, so a given agent's in one or the other, and maybe they're collectively exhaustive, mutually exclusive, you would put them in separate populations. Might be a good way to do it. Okay, so yeah, great question. Other question right now. Okay, I don't want to lose the heat of the moment. So we gave parameters to these agents. We have population, and now we can put in formulas. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put in formulas for here. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to put in a formula for the first one, log normal, with the log mean being 9, the log standard deviation being 4, and the last value is just the minimum value, and here it's 0 essentially. It's not going to be a binding constraint. So here, what does this mean that we have a distribution in here? This is a log normal distribution with some parameters for it. What does that mean that this is the formula for income? Okay. Exactly. So for each successive person in the population, we're going to be drawing from this distribution by running this formula and drawing from it. So ladies and gentlemen, here we should put in, for the first one, log normal 9, 4, 0. And the second one, oh gosh, that's a little bit confusing. Pardon me as I just make it more clear, because the point is there's an underbar under here. The second is we're going to put in, what do you think this means? Uniform underbar discrete 0, 1. Anyone want to guess? Yeah, it can be 0 or 1. It's a discrete uniform distribution, meaning it takes on only these discrete values 0, 0 to 1, so either 0 or 1, with 50% likelihood because it's uniform. Okay, 50% likelihood for each. Okay, so in short, ladies and gentlemen, for income we'll do log normal 9, 4, 0. By the way, you'll notice I put quotes around these. These quotes are not in the boxes. They're just to indicate that that's the literal text you put in. And here it will be uniform discrete. Okay, TAs, keep an eye out for those needing help. Who needs help right now? Who needs help? Who needs help to do this? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, if you folks are okay with that, remember, you need this underbar here. No spaces, uniform underbar discrete, 0, 1, and this is log normal 9, 4, 0 for income. Okay, do people want me to run this now? Do you want to try running it? Try running it, folks. Those who are comfortable, I'll leave this up for the minute for those who are not comfortable. Who needs help here? Help? Help? Going once, going twice? Okay. Okay, so let's run this model. Okay, so run the model. And ladies and gentlemen, we've run the model. How do I go see an agent? How do I see a particular agent here? How do I see the characteristics, say, of their location of an agent? We saw it earlier. Tell me how to do it. How would I go down to the level of an agent? Okay, so I showed 2 ways. Tell me the first. Where do I do? Yeah, this guy. Okay, and you'll notice now these people have incomes and sexes associated with them. And if we look among different people, we'll see some people have larger incomes, some people have smaller incomes. Like this person here is an income of $2 million per year. This is $185,000. 5 million, 18,000. And then their sexes are either 0 or 1. And you'll notice that there's shown where they're located with each successive one. So do you folks see that? Do you have the varying values? Where did this value come from? If I click on that, where did this value come from for their income? How did it get that value? Yeah, so that was drawn from that distribution. That was drawn from the distribution associated with that population. So for that particular person, this one returned back whatever value it was. Each successive person runs this, and this samples from that distribution. It draws from that distribution for each successive person a different income and a different sex from this distribution. Does that make sense? Okay. Make sense? People okay with that? Okay. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're cooking with gas. So let's keep on going on here.